All right, cool. Right, and let's talk Michigan football, man. Some good stuff.
Yeah.
Uh, obviously they have not. They're going to face Purdue, and they haven't lost to Purdue since 2009 when I think Joey Elliott was their quarterback, and we had
Yeah, I was at that game.
CA.
Yeah, I was at that game.
Oh, 38-36. I think we
Yeah.
went 5-5 after that loss, and
Tough game.
Brandon Miner ran all over them.
Yeah,
I think Roy Roundtree had a nice game,
he did.
but
Yeah, 12.
I mean, they're on their end. They had almost no NFL talent on that roster. They made
No
it
doubt
work.
Michigan didn't have much either, at least not in that
Uh,
offense.
yeah, I mean, their running backs are Brandon Miner, Brown, and Vincent Smith,
Yep.
Michael Shaw. Denard
Yep.
Robinson was actually there, so he ran one time for -3 yards in that game.
His freshman year. Yeah.
Yep. They had Junior Hemingway on that. Daryl Stoneham,
Yep.
Donovan Warren was over there, and don't forget Zoltan Mesko,
He's a good punter.
one of the best punters they probably had in a while. I mean, Brad Robbins is in that conversation for sure, but
Probably Mesco had a good NFL career for a minute too.
yeah, it was the Patriots. Yeah, I mean Robbins could very well go to the NFL too. So he's kind of got the yips lately, though. I don't know what's going on with
And
him. Yeah, I think he took that hit, and he just hasn't been the same since.
Yeah.
So yeah, let's talk about that Ohio State game, man, because we predicted a close game, but we did not expect them to come out with a win. Just I think with the being on the road, you never know what it's like playing in the shoe and going back to back against Ohio State after we've hit such a drought. I think there were just a lot of things that in the back of our head we're just not used to seeing Michigan as that top tier Big Ten team now, and I think it's clear as day that Ohio State and Michigan are going to be hanging around that spot for a while, and it's time to split the Big Ten up to have both those teams at the end in each division.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, the big that's a different conversation. I just think right now, I mean, Michigan obviously has the leg up right now, and I think it's kind of one of those they've it's just amazing, right? So Michigan beats Ohio State last year, and Ohio State's entire offseason is spent about this game, right? Is they changed their entire program just to say they fire the defensive, they get a new defensive coordinator, they say we're going to be tougher, they say we're going to run the ball, they say they're going to do all these different things, and they do some of it, right? I mean, they definitely had an improved defense this year. They definitely, they did run the ball with a little bit more consistency at times this year. And they lost by more.
On their own turf.
Yeah, at home. In perfect weather.
And nobody was sick.
Yeah, so I don't know. I don't know what you do now if you're them. I mean, that's got to be. I mean, I don't know how much you saw of like the post game press conferences of like Ryan Day and CJ Stroud. Like those guys were pretty shook over everything that happened, just because they completely. I mean, they got completely embarrassed on Saturday for the most part, and the game itself, I think, was a pretty close game until midway through the fourth quarter. But you could even see as soon as Michigan. Even when Michigan went up 24-20 to start the second half, Ohio State basically folded. It was a little shocking, I'll be honest. Like, just you could see they just didn't. You could tell they were sitting there like, oh man, here we go again, right? Instead of fighting, and that's the thing that kind of epitomizes this Michigan team and last year's, but I would say even this year's more than anything else is they do not flinch in any type of face of any kind of adversity, right? They haven't had a lot this year, right? They've been clearly the best team they've in every single game they've played, the better team, right? But anytime they faced any kind of adversity, mostly in first halves, right? Or
and then the scare with
Illinois, right?
Yeah.
They just keep up. They just keep going out there and they keep playing and competing, and that the Ohio State just did not do that, and that's shocking. Right. And that's an indictment on their program right now. And I think Michigan is that cut above. But I agree with you. I don't think we saw this coming and maybe we should have a little bit, maybe not this, but maybe we should have a little bit. But I do think we kind of have that, I
think we're still healing from like being 0-10 in the previous.
Yeah,
before the last
I
2
think
years.
it's just you never expect. I mean, you expect to win the game if you're on the team, right? But you just absolutely never really go into that game super confident because I mean Michigan's been favored even recently in those games. 2018 they were favored and lost 62-39, right? So it's you never really get. I mean, you've seen too many bad things happen in that game, right? So I mean, maybe the mindset changes a little bit now, but I think you've almost got PTSD from previous years, and that's why I didn't pick them. I didn't. I think we both said Michigan very easily could win this game. I just don't think either of us thought they would.
Yeah, and I think we're all bias aside in our final prediction. I think, yeah, I said 38-30 Ohio State. You said 35-24 Ohio State, and it's just I think we were shocked because of we got 11 snaps from Mike Morris. We got 24 from Luke Schoonmaker, and Loveland had like 50. And then Clem Mullings played running back that game because we were concerned about running back depth. CJ Stokes with his concussion, Donovan Edwards, the broken bone in his hand. Blake Corum tried the first 2 snaps, and we saw it right away. He didn't have that cut.
Right.
So
I think that actually, I mean, is a bigger factor. Like I might have picked Michigan to win if Blake Corum was fully healthy, right?
yeah,
And it's kind of a shame to think about. The one thing that's a bummer in this game is if Blake Corum put up Donovan Edwards' stat line in this game, he would have won the Heisman.
yeah, and now it's Caleb Williams, but
now Caleb Williams is going to win it, right? But and that's fine, right? I don't that bigger fish to fry. Yeah, bigger fish to fry here, right? But that's the one bummer, right? But that's one of the biggest reasons why I didn't pick Michigan is man, I don't know, right? And Donovan Edwards, it's like that guy. He's playing with a cast on his hand. He can even hold the ball properly, and he goes out there and runs for over 200 yards. Ridiculous. One of the more ridiculous things I've ever seen in that game. And I've seen some stupid things in that game happen.
Yeah, I mean, that was more yardage than Hassan Haskins had in like 30 carries last year. So,
yeah.
Obviously the 2 big breakaways, 75 and 85-yard run, help.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to bring it up because I don't think Ohio State should anticipate winning next year, going to the Big House again, and not being able to address their safety concerns. I just don't know if that's going to, Michigan's going to have their own things they'll have to address this offseason too to replace some players. But
I mean, Ohio State did literally their entire game plan was like, hey, we're not going to let Michigan run, right? Which is fair enough. We've been waiting for a team to do what Ohio State did to Michigan all year long. I think we've come on here and talked about most of the games, right? And we've been like, man, a lot of these teams just aren't just selling out to stop the run. They're kind of sitting back and just letting Michigan gash them for 5-6 yards at a time, right? And I've been not necessarily shocked, but just man, this is just death by 1,000 cuts. Iowa did the same thing. Indiana did some of the same thing. Most teams did that, right? And Ohio State said, no, we're not going to do that. We're going to make JJ beat us over the top. And he did. I thought that they were going to maybe adjust after halftime, right?
Because JJ, the first 2 drives did not look good either.
No.
That was concerning. You lose Blake Corum you knew Blake Corum wasn't coming after the first 2 carries. No. JJ was airmailing the first 2 drives.
Yeah, but he did make the play. He got him in field goal range the first drive on that 30-yard throw to Ronnie Bell. He was making some plays with his feet. I thought he was just a little too amped up early on, and obviously they were pressuring him like crazy early on. But
I think when he hit his first, one of those throws to Johnson was Johnson. Speed.
Yeah, but I think when he hit that, it was like, oh, okay. We could take a deep breath, right? It's like, all right, we made a play. We kind of got.
But then he hits the deep throw and he completes it, and that's been his monkey on his back all year.
Right.
Yep. And he hit 2 of them. I mean,
the better throw was even to Loveland, I would say.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
Kalel Mullings also just a dime, but
higher PBR than JJ that game.
Yeah.
1 for 1 for 15 yards. Actually, if he threw a dime, he would be 1 for 1 with a touchdown.
I know. Okay. He had to wait 19 years for that ball to get to him, but
right. But okay, so that play kind of epitomizes kind of how this game went though, too, because to me it felt like Ohio State that entire not game, but at least in the second half, was doing everything they could not to lose, and Michigan was going for the win, right? That play call means, yeah, it's ballsy. If it doesn't work, that looks really bad, right? But that play call is, hey, we're going for it right here. Like, we are going for the win. While Ohio State's punting on Michigan's side of the 50 twice on fourth down, right? On fourth and short, right? That's not going for the win. And I think that's just kind of where these programs are right now. Like, Ohio State is kind of searching for an identity, and Michigan knows their identity. Michigan knows what they are and what they need to be and what they need to do, and knows what they're trying to be. So I think that's the biggest thing.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm just moving to a different room because Sayla's sleeping now above that room. And now I can yell and scream excitement.
Good. But yeah, I don't know. I agree with you. I wouldn't expect. Obviously, going to be two completely different teams next year. But Michigan's got a lot coming back. They'll have to replace some things, but Ohio State's going to have to replace their quarterback. And who's been a generational, as far as at least stats, quarterback. They're gonna have to replace. They'll have Marvin Harrison Jr. back, but they'll probably have to replace a couple of receivers, offensive linemen. So it'll be interesting. But right now, Michigan's got the leg up in the rivalry. Which, if you would have told me that they would have the leg up in the rivalry in 2022, if you would have told me that after that 2018 or 2019 game, either one, I would have laughed. I would have been like, "You're crazy." So pretty cool.
Yeah, there was a while where Michigan fans were just like, I think we're just going to have to be happy being 9-3 and 10-2, while Ohio State's just having an unprecedented 20 years.
Yeah, we'll just have to hope they eventually fall off or have some recruiting scandal or something, and then get somebody fired and they have to change it or something.
Well, and how are we going to maintain hold of this rivalry, losing a key piece like Cade McNamara?
I don't know.
How do we replace Cade McNamara?
Okay, hey, I'm just saying, Cade should never have to buy a beer in Ann Arbor ever again. All right, and he deserves a lot of credit for last year, but obviously, it was quite obvious what needed to happen this year, and that's why Cade McNamara doesn't go out there and do what JJ did on Saturday. And McCarthy didn't even play like the most flawless game you've ever seen. But what he did is he made plays that a lot of other guys aren't going to make, right? With his feet, extending plays, even the play, the play. So Ronnie Bell drew a pass interference on that drive. JJ had the running touchdown, right?
Yeah.
The play before the pass interference, JJ escapes pressure, spins out of two dudes, and then ends up throwing it incomplete, right? But that's such a big play, because if you get sacked there, the drive is over. It's completely gone, right? And that's such a big play, just being able to get out of that and just throwing it away versus taking a sack there. And Cade McNamara, he gets sacked there. There's no chance.
And JJ was willing to take all that smoke, even when he did go for the touchdown run. He lowered his shoulder. He's like, "I'm doing this."
He doesn't make that play, and that's okay.
Cade's not doing that,
and that's okay. It's not. I don't think with Cade, it's no lack.
Cade is an Iowa quarterback trapped in a Michigan body. That's just what it is.
I don't think it's necessarily a lack of will for McNamara, right? Or understanding on what to do. It's just the physical ability, right? And that's why you make the change when you do, and that's what happened. And JJ, people say he grew up before our eyes, and I think really all it had to be is he just had to hit. If he hits half of the deep balls that he missed all year long, he's
probably a Heisman candidate,
right? How many open or not? How many of those that he barely missed? He's right there. He's only thrown 2 interceptions all season, right? He's thrown 17 touchdowns. Pretty good.
And it's hard to pin all of that on, because honestly, Andrew Anthony's probably been one of the most disappointing offensive players this year for Michigan.
Yeah, it's not all on him at all. I think some of it could be. They were definitely saving some things for Ohio State, right? They were they definitely had some passing.
Kalem Mullings, obviously, they were saving him.
Clearly saving that one. That one can go back away now too. So that's a one-time.
That's a one-time deal.
Yeah. But yeah, they were saving some things in the passing game. I think they definitely opened it up a little bit. But So some of it could be attributed to some play calling early in the year, and I think a lot of it could be contributed to the receiver group. But I mean, now if you look at Michigan, who's going to beat Michigan right now? Georgia?
Yeah, Georgia probably. I mean, USC could put up a fight.
I think any of the top four could beat each other, though. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I could totally see any of those top four.
I don't know if I
can
can see TCU beating Georgia, but
maybe not. I don't know if I can see TCU beating Michigan.
yeah, but that's why I said that. That's the one team where I feel like a lot of people are like, move Michigan to 1. They deserve it, and they might. They very well can make that argument. They could be one.
Well, they did not today. It already came out tonight.
No, I know they did. I know they came out, but people like you could make the argument.
Sure, they have the best win in the country.
Yes, and they smoked them.
And they smoked them, and they have probably one of the better 5 wins in the country against Penn State. Penn State was ranked 8th.
And they also smoked Penn State.
They smoked Penn State, right? So
yeah.
But Georgia's got 4 top 25 wins, right? And they haven't done anything that.
But their biggest win's Tennessee. Their next biggest win's Oregon. I mean, it's
right. And they've done nothing to cause them to fall out of number 1. So I don't really care. Michigan's number 2. We'll take.
But that's why I'm okay with it, because I'd rather take number 3 TCU on than a number 4 USC.
We want no drama. We want chalk. So we want everything to go as planned. Ohio State gets left out at number 5. That's fine.
Although there's that chance that things can go horribly wrong, and we could play Ohio State again, and I'm not against it. If we can beat them on the road, we could beat them in a neutral field.
Yeah, I don't want to do that. I'll be completely honest. I just don't want to have that game happen again. So
what are you picking? What are you picking in that game? Is it that?
Right, exactly. I mean, if Vegas will probably have them as probably have Ohio State as a slight favorite.
Really? Wow. Yeah, there's a lot of things that can get Alabama and Ohio State both in, and that's not ideal.
Yeah. I mean, Alabama. So if TCU, I don't know, if TCU loses, do they fall down to 4? Or
I think they'd fall to like 6. They lose to Kansas State. I think they'd fall to 6.
Yeah, but they have Kansas State at 10 now.
Do they?
Yeah. I don't know. That's the tough one. So if TCU loses and USC loses, you could see Ohio State and Alabama in, which would suck. I do not want that at all. But I agree. If everything goes according to plan, I will probably pick Michigan to get to the national championship game.
Well, I mean, especially if it stays the same. Michigan needs to take on, TCU. I think they could beat TCU. But let's talk about some of these conference championship games. Friday is going to be the first one. That's Utah USC. So we'll find out real fast if USC can claim their spot for sure in the college football playoff, if they can beat Utah, who was their one loss earlier this year.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, they lost to them in overtime by 1.
43-42. It wasn't in overtime though.
Not in overtime. Okay. I just think USC's gotten better. So I really do.
Utah scored because Cam Rising went for 2.
That's right. Yeah. So it was a decision, right? And it came down to 1 play.
Mm-hmm.
The USC's gotten better. I think Caleb Williams has gotten. I wouldn't say he's gotten better. He's always been pretty ridiculous. But I think he's kind of playing at a higher level than anybody else at this point. So I will probably pick USC in that one.
But I mean, even Travis Dye, been a good running back. Obviously, they got the transfer Jordan Addison from Pittsburgh. I think that was a big one. But yeah, Cam Rising's actually been pretty low key, solid this year as well. So it's hard to discount that. But I think USC's played way hotter, and I think to me they played like one of the best teams in college football. If I actually picked them again, I would almost lean towards them over Georgia right now. So
I would not, because I think Georgia will physically dominate them, and that's why I think I'd pick Michigan over them too right now, just because USC has a flaw and they haven't really been able to stop the run. I know they stopped Notre Dame decently this past game, but I'm not overly impressed with Notre Dame. But they have the best player in college football, probably, right? Mm-hmm. So that's kind of the great equalizer there. So I think I'll pick USC, and probably by 10.
I'll take USC by 13.
Okay, so two scores. Good
Yeah.
game though. Should be a really good game. Utah is tough. I mean, they're physical, and they've been there before. And if they lose, man, if USC loses,
That messes up a lot. That gives
that's a lot.
Alabama a real opportunity. Not
Well,
like,
it'll be Ohio State because Ohio State's fifth. So
but then another loss that could happen is obviously Adrian Martinez being happy that he's transferred out of Nebraska to Kansas State to take on Max Duggan and Texas Christian Horned Frogs. So this game is actually really close to 50-50 on a predictor right now. But who are you leaning towards right now? I mean, man, Deuce Vaughn's a really good running back too, but Kendre Miller's had a good year for TCU too. So
yeah, TCU just hasn't really laid an egg all year, and I don't really expect them to again. I think they just kind of feel disrespected in a way. I think even though they have been ranked in the top four the past 3 or 4 weeks, I think they just kind of feel disrespected a little bit and like like they deserve a little bit more. And I think they'll go in there. I'm not going to say they'll dominate because I think Kansas State will be in there motivated too. But yeah, I'll go with TCU in a close one. They've played a lot of close games. They've been down in a lot of games late, and they've come back. So I'll go with TCU by 4.
I'm going to say 34-27 TCU. Their offensive line is the one thing that actually does look intimidating. Their offensive line is all tanks, every one of them, all 5 big dudes. And obviously Duggan's having a crazy year.
Yep.
So obviously Adrian Martinez didn't get to play the full year even with Kansas State. But he's been successful in the times that he's played. So yeah, I think this is another really good game. No, it's a nice solid matchup. There's 2 at 4:00, and that's one of them is LSU Georgia. I think I'm taking Georgia, but again, Jaden Daniels has been really solid for LSU. I think he's their leading rusher and passer. So
yeah, I just think LSU is a little bit of a fraud. I mean, I think they're a good team. I think they're solid, but I think the SEC is overrated. I think they have a bunch of very pretty good teams, but I don't think they have any elite team other than Georgia.
they have Brian Kelly. That's going to always drag them down a little bit.
Yeah, and I don't like him, so there's that.
Not going to win the big games. So yeah, I don't.
Yeah, they beat Bama, right? But Bama's down. I'm not impressed with the SEC overall.
I don't know if they'd beat Bama again if they played them. That's just the other thing about it.
Yeah, I mean they barely beat them, and it was a good game, and it is what it is. But there's no overly impressive team in the SEC other than Georgia. Georgia is extremely impressive. So, and that tells
Georgia,
me.
see, to me, Stetson Bennett's not even like this quarterback that I'm like, oh, I'd love to have Stetson Bennett on my team. He's not that quarterback.
No, but that's not their team, man. He just goes out there and he gets the ball out to some playmakers, and they run the ball.
Defense is fast, strong, disciplined. I mean,
they're well coached. They run the ball. They play defense, and they've got good skill. Really, really good skill.
Brock Bowers, yeah. I mean,
they have probably the best pair of tight ends in the country, for sure. So,
and McIntosh has been just fine at running back too. So, yeah. Another lesser one would be the AAC, and that's UCF playing Tulane. Tulane might have some of the best uniforms in college football, to be quite honest. But yeah, again, this game could go either way. UCF's always seems like it's an AAC powerhouse. Tulane's having one of their rare years of just being really good, and I think that's kind of a lot of that's led behind their running back Tyjae Spears. So, Pratt's been good at quarterback as well, but are you going to take Rice Plumlee or are you going to take Pratt?
Yeah, I'll take John Rice Plumlee in this one. Tulane's good. I just think how many losses they have?
They're 10-2. UCF's 9-3. I mean, they're both.
Yeah, I think UCF's got a little bit more talent overall on that team. Tulane's had a magical year, but I think it kind of ends on a lower note. So we'll go 38-28.
Okay. I'm going to take Tulane, and I'm going to say 31-30. And the last one, besides what we'll talk about, we'll finish it with Purdue. But Clemson and North Carolina DJ Ukulele has been pretty hit and miss all year. I remember 2 years ago being like when he was a freshman and we're like tank for DJ.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't think that's on anyone's wish list anymore.
No.
Drake May, however, in a couple years.
Maybe.
Yeah. Drake May's good. I'm actually more hoping Caleb Williams in 2 years, but
Yeah, that would be good. Maybe JJ McCarthy in 2 years or something.
Yeah.
I'm gonna pick North Carolina in this game. I hate Clemson, and I think they're pretty bad this year. And I think North Carolina's got enough explosiveness that Clemson isn't going to be able to match up. Clemson hasn't had any type of explosiveness on offense this year at all. So we'll take North Carolina in a shootout though, a bit 45-38. So I know I said Clemson can't keep up, but they'll keep pace a little bit. But
I'm gonna say you're right. I think it is gonna be a shootout. Drake May can do everything right now. I mean, leading rusher on the team. Josh Downs is leading receiver. And obviously, Drake May has been probably one of the best. He's not a true freshman, right? He's a redshirt freshman.
yeah, he's Richard. Yeah, I think so.
But just having a stellar year, DJ has been just you never know what DJ you're gonna get. And so, despite Clemson Tigers having a white running back, I'm going to take UNC as well, and I'm going to say 49-45.
All right.
So let's talk Purdue, Michigan now. Yeah, obviously Aidan O'Connell ended up. We kind of were gifted this matchup because we could have just beat down Iowa all over again, but Nebraska had to go upset them. Yep. So we get Purdue.
I just want to say I picked Purdue to win the West preseason. I did.
It's hard to be like proud of you because they're 7-5. But...
And it got dicey there, but I kept the faith.
I mean, everyone was like 7-4 going last week.
Pretty big mess. Illinois was probably the best team in the West. I think it was pretty obvious. But they didn't get it done, and they lost 3 games in a row there that they couldn't lose. So.
I mean, they were going to beat Michigan, right? They almost did, though. So props to them.
Did. But you can't lose to Michigan State, and you can't lose whoever else they lost to.
Michigan State was their big one. That's
you can't lose.
Michigan State's not even going to make a bowl game, and you had a real opportunity. Just win one game and give yourself that chance.
Yep. Exactly.
So, Aidan O'Connell won with I think his brother died too. That a day before, so played with a pretty heavy heart and got the job done. But Devin Maccabee also really played well in that game. Charlie Jones has been one of the better receivers in the Big Ten all year. So, there's a lot of talent on Purdue. I just think they are not going to win in the trenches on either side of the ball.
I expect them to get essentially blown out of the water up front on either side of the ball, like you said. I think they'll have some things schemed up to try to combat that a little bit because I think they'll quickly realize that they aren't going to be able to win up front, right? But so I think they'll probably have some things that just make Michigan fans annoyed. It's kind of it'll be one of those where it's like, why are you allowing, you give up a touchdown early, maybe even 2 early on. And then, they figure it out, right? Because Jeff Brom usually has some things schemed up that work, at least for a while. But I think this is a game that if Michigan can get a couple, maybe they get Mike Morris healthy, maybe not, don't know. It sounds like Blake Corum probably won't be playing, which that's fine.
That's fine. I would rather save him for the playoff.
Exactly. But if Michigan can get a little bit of pass rush, Aidan O'Connell is not a running quarterback at all. And if they can manhandle them up front, I think Michigan will probably win pretty comfortably. This might not be the prettiest game in the world, but I don't know. Jim Harbaugh in big games usually has some things up his sleeve, so I think it'll be a fun one. I don't know if it'll be as big of a blowout as last year against Iowa, just because that game kind of got away from Iowa. Purdue has a competent offense compared to that Iowa team last year.
And a reasonable defense, but the offense definitely has the playmakers. And I think that's the difference. But it's going to come down to, if Mike Morris if he's going to play more than 11 snaps. I mean, Yabi Yoki had a nice game as well. And, if he just keeps getting better, sounds like he's coming back again too. So that'll be big. But I think this is actually going to be the biggest blowout win of all these conference championship games. I'm going to
It's the biggest
take
match, in my opinion.
Michigan 38-16.
Yeah, I'll take Michigan 42-17.
Okay. Yeah. So I think for both of us, it looks like that's probably the biggest blowout. I mean, I think we had I had USC by 17, I think. Georgia could beat LSU by 21, but
Yeah, it's
yeah,
the biggest match on paper though in any conference championship game. It's not even close, in my opinion, because like even the AAC, that's two evenly matched teams. In the ACC, it's relatively evenly matched teams. Georgia and LSU might be the other bigger mismatch, which is funny because the two best teams probably in the country come from the two conferences that are the biggest mismatches in the conference championship games, which is just interesting. But I think, yeah, I mean, you got to look at it if you're the Big Ten. I mean, they're going to stick with the divisions again for one more year, obviously, they said, but um,
it's worth looking into again.
it's definitely worth it. I mean, they'll get USC and UCLA in there too to help balance it out in 2 years. And we'll go from there. So I think, but it'll be really interesting to see where they go because, yeah, it's obviously not working with the way it's set up right now. The West has never won. They haven't really been particularly close. Wisconsin was close, I feel like, one year, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So yeah, it's gonna be another fun week, but that's gonna be the later game.
Yep.
Just thankful I'm not doing sound system in the morning service for church. I'm doing it at the night service, so I can stay up a little later for this one.